Hello everyone and welcome to another incredibly exciting game from the classical portion of the Norway Chess 2022. It's Veselin Topalov versus Viswanathan Anand, and this is their 73rd classical game that the two of them are playing. If you guys are interested in their current score head-to-head, it's 19 wins for Anand, 13 wins for Topalov, and 40 draws. And this is now their 73rd game, which is just incredible. They know each other very well, and the games are always well, very, very enjoyable. Now, this game here, time played kind of a crucial factor, but only seemingly, as you'll see. The real problem for this game was that it's impossible to calculate all the lines, because the lines in this game are crazy and super enjoyable, as you'll see. So let's check it out. Topalov has the white pieces and he opens with d4. Anand replies with d5, and we have c4 offering the queen's gambit, and Anand accepts. D captures on c4, and this is incredibly sharp. If you don't know how to accept the gambit, you do not accept the gambit. They say, in the olden days they said that the queen's gambit is not really a gambit, because usually gambits are best accepted. They say that the gambits are best refuted if accepted, but queen's gambit maybe not so much. So here, accepting the gambit, very, very cool stuff. E4, Anand moved away from the center, so Topalov grabs the full center. B5 now, defending the pawn, as Topalov was ready to capture it, and now A4. We have to challenge this queenside expansion Anand created. C6 defending, and now a captures on b5 is the most common way to play this, but Topalov plays knight to c3. He invites Anand to play b4, and this is exactly what Anand plays. We have b4, and now knight back to b1. Knight to a2 is a more popular retreat, but Topalov has a different idea. He plays knight b1. And now, again, he's ready to capture back on c4. So bishop to e6 defending, and now Topalov plays queen to c2. Now he's threatening to capture back on c4, but he also gives up the d4 pawn, which is very strange. You create a full center, and then you just give up the d4 pawn, but this is all standard stuff of the queen's gambit accepted. So queen captures on d4, Anand grabs the pawn, knight f3 developing, and now this is where the game really begins. It's not a new position, but basically the engine tells you that all the retreats are great. So it's basically your choice what kind of a game you want to play. That's where you retreat. So here Anand plays queen to d7, and now bishop captures on c4. And here we reach new territory, because, for example, in 2011 in Bilbao, Aronian had this position against Paco Vallejo where e6 was played. Aronian was able to win that game. But here we have bishop captures on c4 by Anand, and it is now already as of move 9 that we have a completely new game. So queen captures on c4, you have to grab back the piece, and now pawn to e6. Topalov continues development, bishop to e3, we have knight to f6, knight b to d2, and now bishop to e7. And here both players just castle. So castles, trying to finish development, rook f to d1, aligning the rook nicely with the queen on the open d file, but you don't really have any good discovery. So Anand is not worried about that. He plays an incredibly active move, and that is pawn to c5, which seems impossible because it's attacked twice and defended only once, but that's exactly what Anand does. He gives back a little bit of material to develop his queen side as quickly as possible. So Topalov captures, it is the strongest move. Bishop captures on c5, and now rook to c8, pins the bishop, knight to b3, defends the bishop, and now queen to c7, attacking the bishop 3 times, but now just queen to b5, and this is the strongest move that is available here. It seems like you're blundering a piece, but not really, because Anand's back rank is weak. If you actually capture the bishop here, then we just capture everything, and once the queen captures, you get checkmated. Rook d8 check, knight blocks, and this is now checkmate. So this is how Topalov unpins. So Anand plays a6, chases away the queen. Queen captures on b4, and now just knight to c6. Now he gets some development in, attacks the queen, queen back to e1, defending the e4 pawn, and now rook 8 to b8. And now Anand is fully developed. We have bishop captures on e7, Topalov trades here, queen captures, and now knight f to d2. And okay, Topalov is up a pawn, but look at the position. Anand's rooks are beautifully placed on the b and c file. You can't really defend the b2 pawn. Your knight is attacked. If you move the knight, you lose the pawn. So for the moment, you have to play a move like knight f to d2. So queen to b4, putting more pressure on the b file and also putting pressure on the a4 pawn, so it's hard to bring this rook into the game. Queen to e2 by Topalov, and now knight to d4, attacking the queen and on b3, so you have to capture. So knight captures on d4, queen captures, and now as the b2 pawn is attacked, we play pawn to b3. And now it's defended, but still the knight is on d2. It's not a great square for the knight. So here h6, Anand creates a little bit of breathing room for the king, so you don't have to worry about your back rank issues. And now how can Topalov start developing? It seems like whatever move he makes, it's just insufficient. He would like to move the knight, but the knight here, both the e4 pawn is attacked and the knight is a defender of the e4 pawn, and also the knight is a defender of the b3 pawn. So you can't really move the knight. It's hard to move the rooks. So here Topalov comes up with rook to a2. If this rook ever moves, the rook will not be a target here, and also it serves as a defender for the knight. So now you can move this rook. So here we have a5, blockading the entire queen side. So this is now a backwards pawn, and it doesn't really matter that Topalov has 2-to-1 advantage here. You are never going to be able to move this pawn as long as the rooks are in the game. So here h3, Topalov also creates some breathing room for his king. Now comes queen to b4. We have queen back to e1, and now rook to c3, just mounting the pressure, and it's very, very hard for Topalov to make moves. We have rook to b2 now, adding more defense to the b3 pawn, and now rook to d8. So how do you continue here? We have rook d to b1, and now knight to d7. Now Anand is bringing the knight over to c5 to put more pressure on the b3 pawn. We have queen to e2, and now comes rook to b8. Here knight to e5 is also very much playable. The knight is excellent on e5, and for one, it prevents the white knight from coming to c4, but Anand plays rook to b8 because it's an incredibly tricky move, and also he's playing on Topalov's time. Topalov is already below 4 minutes, and he still needs to make 9 more moves to reach time control, and the position is just incredibly complicated. Just to give you an example, if Topalov wanted to calculate knight to c4 here, 4 minutes would not be enough. And just to give you an example, and it's a crucial move to calculate. If you can play knight to c4, you are fine. But okay, let's say knight to c5, we put more pressure here. Now e5 is the move to play. So even just this requires a lot of time to calculate. But now let's see what happens if black actually starts capturing. Rook captures on b3, rook captures on b3, knight captures on b3. Now white has knight to d2, and that would be a problem. So you can't just start capturing on b3. And here if queen captures on a4, there's queen to d3. Now putting more pressure on the knight here. You can't move the knight because the rook hangs. So here we would play queen to a2, and now you get queen to d6, attacking the rook here. Rook to b7, rook to b7, not b6, and now we just deliver a check. King h7, we deliver another check. Now the queen attacks the knight here, and after g6 we capture on b3. Very nicely done. Let's say rook captures, knight captures, white is up a piece, but now comes a4. Anand would have a pass pawn here. For example, knight to c5 attacks the pawn, queen to b2. Now if knight captures, we just play queen to a1 check, and we pick up the knight on a4. So here it would be tricky, but with perfect play it's a draw, but with perfect play everything's a draw. So after Anand's rook to b8 move, knight to c4 with 4 minutes on the clock, impossible to calculate. So Topalov plays rook to d1, and now Anand just continues mounting the pressure. Knight to c5, we have rook b back to b1, and now rook to d3. Again, Anand just keeps the pressure. Anand could trade everything off with knight captures on b3, but there's no reason to do this, specifically because Topalov is so low on time, and this is what Topalov most likely wanted Anand to play, because there's this very tricky queen to h5 move. It seems like a crazy move, like it does absolutely nothing, but the actual idea is after queen captures on a4, we're going to play knight captures on b3, rook captures on b3, rook captures on b3, and after queen captures, play rook to d7. That's the idea of queen to h5. We go after the f7 pawn, and also once black defends this, we are going to pick up the a5 pawn, so black will not keep the outside pass pawn, and it will be equal material. It's a draw. So Anand says nope, not going to happen. He just continues mounting pressure. Rook to d3, and now e5. very hard to find moves for Topalov, but he manages to find them. The knight is no longer the pawn is no longer a target on e4. Rook to d5 now by Anand. Finally, knight to c4, a beautiful square for the knight, also defending the e5 pawn. And now, again, can Anand capture on b3? Well, let's check it out. If knight captures on b3, there's rook captures on d5. This is what Topalov prepared. And now if e captures on d5, there's knight to d2. And this is just now big problem for Anand. You can't really capture. If queen captures, then you just fall apart. Just queen captures on d2. And now if knight captures, of course, rook captures on b8 with check. And rook will defeat a knight in this endgame very easily. So what would actually happen after knight to d2, queen captures on a4, and now we play e6, and Topalov now wins this, no questions asked. For example, f captures, queen captures with check, king h8, better yet, king h8, queen h7, doesn't really matter, you're gonna get there either way. Rook captures on b3, and now after rook captures on b3, now we force the king to the h7 square, so it doesn't really matter, king h7, queen to c2 with check, and now we pick up the rook. King back to h8, now we pick up the rook, and that's it. Okay, black has the 2 pawns, but the knight and queen will defeat them. So that's the problem here. So Anand doesn't try to capture on b3. He plays rook captures on d1, queen captures on d1, and now finally knight captures on a4. This is how Anand wins back the pawn. And now how do you continue playing this? Well, of course, you cannot capture because queen captures on b1, rook to a1 by Topalov. Now knight to c3, attacking the queen, and you have to be careful. One wrong move and you blunder the queen, so you can't have that. So here, after knight to c3, Topalov really went into a deep think, which was necessary but not possible because he did not have any more time, and he played queen to d6, but it was before he actually hit the clock that his time ran out, and it was in this position on move 37, or basically on move 36, that Veselin Topalov lost the game on time, and Anand wins his second classical game in a row. And it's this position, it's always going to be slightly better for Anand, but not enough to push. So for example, if you capture on b3, we're going to capture on a5, attack the queen here. For example, queen b2 will attack the rook, and now rook moves somewhere, the game continues. Equal material, it's a bit more comfortable for Anand to play this, as his pieces are placed better, but like I said, with perfect play it's a draw, but with perfect play everything's a draw. So it's Anand wins this game on time, but now that you've actually seen the lines, you know that he did not win this game on time. He just won it because it was impossible for Topalov to calculate everything. So yeah, that's the game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Very nicely done. With this win, these are the standings. So let me just make this a little bit smaller. So these are the standings via Chess24 website. There you have it. Anand in clear first place, the only one who won both of his classical games, followed by Wesley So with 4.5, as we're going to cover that game as well from the second round. In third place, Anish Giri with 3, 2.5, Mamedyarov and Magnus Carlsen with 2, Wang Hao and Aryan Tari with 1.5, Timur Rajabov with 1.5, Maxim Vashelograd and Veselin Topalov with 1 point after losing this game to Anand. And also you guys might be interested in this, so let me just quickly load this up. Sorry, I haven't prepared it beforehand. These are the world top 12, and as you can see, these are the live ratings, of course. Anand comes back into the world top 10 in classical chess after winning his 2 games, and now he's number 9 ahead of Giri, Nakamura, and Maxim Vasher-Lagrave. So really impressive stuff by Anand. We'll see if he can continue his onslaught in classical chess. So you know, good things are happening in the chess world. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Always be mindful of your time, but sometimes it's just not possible, as there's just too much to calculate. I would like to thank Andre Theron, Alexander John Huar, Valentin Moreira. I would like to wish a very happy birthday to Lucas Wang, and I would like to thank Anand Legend for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the Norway Chess 2022 until it finishes. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.